Here are some of the worst mistakes in animated movies. Even $100 million budget has not saved these animated movies from making silly mistakes. Just like in this scene, which is from the animated superhero film The Incredibles, which debuted long before Marvel was dominating the box office, which was purposefully set in a fantastical 1960s. From the cars to the clothes to the homes, everything points to this. However, there's a completely other narrative back in Mr. Incredible's office. On one of the newspaper clippings that are symbolic of Mr. Incredible's glory on the wall, some fans has purposefully noticed the date September 16, 2002. The Parr family's reality doesn't make sense, even if the animators are presumably attempting to make a reference to a significant occasion. Or is there some secret time travel going on? We may never know.
Well, another day saved when his cape snagged on a missile.
Thunderhead was not the brightest bulb.
Stratogale, April 23rd, 57. Cape caught in a jet turbine.
If you've watched any of our videos, you'll know that Pixar's Up is one of our favorite films to exist. And that is precisely why we've watched it several times and noticed the serious mistake. It's one of those iconic movies that within seconds of its opening, moved the whole cinema to tears. However, the scene immediately following Carl's vibrant house's ascent into the sky is among the most confusing in the movie. Carl's house is depicted from every angle as it floats through the city and into the sky. But just as he is settling in, he hears Russell tap on the door.
Hi, Mr. Fredrickson. It's me, Russell.
Alright, this kid is fantastic, but where did he come from? Given that he was obviously not there previously, how could he have ended up on the doorstep? And how did he manage to stay upright? There's just no logic behind it. But alas, that is exactly the reason why we watch animated movies, isn't it? Up next, the wedding dress that Cinderella wore wasn't very noteworthy. This is probably because when you think of this Disney princess, you imagine her in her famous sparkly ball gown, or maybe even her blue and brown maid's uniform. However, if you watch the film again, you'll see that her wedding gown is actually rather unusual. Why, you may ask? It shifts. Cinderella's bridal gown features long sleeves when she marries. However, the dress immediately has short sleeves as she rides out into her happily ever after with the prince in the last picture. We don't even know how this occurred unless she pulled out some scissors and cut out the fabric while we weren't looking. On the topic of fairy tales with iconic female protagonists, we caught this hilarious mistake in Mulan. Remember when the cricket is typing out a letter for Mushu by jumping on some paper? He gets ink on his feet and goes for it. Then when he lands on the table though, there's no ink there. A similar thing happens with the matchmaker. She accidentally uses her ink-covered fingers to give herself some facial hair. But when she picks up her teapot moments later, no ink comes off. Apparently, the movie's black liquid has a mind of its own.
Now, pour the tea. To please your future in-laws, you must demonstrate a sense of dignity and refinement. You must also be poised.
These mistakes we found in The Princess and the Frog are going to completely leave you dumbfounded. At one point, Naveen and Charlotte are dancing to some music while Tiana is moving along with it. Guess what happens when the shot changes? Somehow, she has some earrings. In another moment, a picture behind her flashes in and out while she debates whether or not to kiss a frog. Another big error? The Mississippi River can be seen in the backdrop of St. Louis Cathedral, but in the real world, it's out in the front. However, the final image wouldn't have been as creative if it had been the other way around, would it?
Now pronounce your frog and wife. Get to it, Hopalong. Give your lovely bride some sugar.
Congratulations.
Do you recall the part where Lilo is learning how to play the hula? You may remember the song being accompanied by a pair of drummers. One of the drummers appears to miraculously switch instruments halfway through Lilo's class, which you might not recall. The drummer on the right side of the screen suddenly sports a red drum in a fresh image, even though the two men are initially hammering on yellow hourglass-shaped instruments. I suppose miraculous drum swapping abilities could exist in Lillo's universe if aliens could.
Down.
Lilo?
Kuikala-iba! Hokima! Uli, 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 uli! Ha! Uli, uli,
Lilo.
uli, uli!
Okay, real ones will remember this for sure. Think back to Tarzan's intense fight with a leopard. He gets a lot of scratches on his chest. Only after Tarzan emerges from the pit with the leopard do you notice the enormous claw marks. His apparent wounds appears to have magically healed though. The animators may have done this on purpose to avoid showing any signs of violence in the movie. Although, the decision would be viewed as a bit radical in the modern world. It appeared to be effective in 1999 though, the year the film was released. Lewis Carroll wrote the first Alice in Wonderland. However, the Disney movie's opening titles state that Lewis Carroll developed it using only one L. Ask any reporter, that's a pretty big blunder. And it's kind of mind-boggling that nobody saw the movie wasn't properly credited in the first 30 seconds. However, were there any errors made in the real movie? You bet! Alice has taken a bite off of each mushroom, but when she shrinks after her forest journey, the fragments appear uneaten.
Who are you?
I hardly know, sir. I've changed so many times since this morning, you see.
I do not see. Explain yourself.
There appears to be numerous errors in The Lion King. Disney may have done this since Pocahontas was being released at the same time, and all of its best animators were working on it. The number of whiskers each lion has and the color of their eyes are two of the most frequent continuity errors in the movie. One of the more glaring mistakes though, is that when Simba scratches a hyena in the face, the hyena's face is shown in the following image with no marks on it.
Where's the birdie boiler?
Oh no, not the birdie boiler!
Hey! Why don't you pick on somebody your own size?
Additionally, some mistakes could be made for aesthetic reasons. Sebastian, for instance, is red in The Little Mermaid, most likely solely because color goes well with the surrounding water and helps him relate to Ariel. Sebastian's redness does have a drawback though, as there is only one type of red crab in the world, and it is only found close to Christmas Island, which is far from the location of The Little Mermaid. Another problem is that most of the time, a red crab indicates that it has been roasted, which would rather be a gloomy character for a children's movie.
They will be spectacular!
Yes, and especially my little Ariel.
Yes, yes, she has the most beautiful voice.
Since Sully was composed of 2.3 million individual hairs, each frame in Monsters Incorporated that included him took 12 hours to create, making it simple to understand how an error may have gone unnoticed. The scene where George Sanderson, one of the similarly hairy monsters, gets a child's sock attached to his back is among the better illustrations of this. The toe of the sock is facing right when we first view it, but when it's taken off, the sock mysteriously changes direction. How did this happen?
Well, so long, kid.
Mike Wazowski!
Yeah. Oh, boo. It's been fun. Go ahead. Go grow up.
Megamind needed someone new to oppose his evil schemes when Metro Man vanished. He hired a spooky cameraman named Hal, about whom he knew very little about. Megamind became more and more aware of Hal's shortcoming during their training regimen, but they willfully chose to ignore it. So Hal made the decision to spare Megamind, unlike his predecessor, during their first spar against each other. Because of this, the roles of hero and villain were reversed, and Megamind was forced to make every effort to succeed. Megamind ultimately showed how much his skepticism had impeded him from the start.
Fantastic.
So I will just go ahead and defuse him since this is clearly a mistake.
No, Minion! Something much more powerful at work here. This is no mistake. It's destiny. Hal Stewart!
And there you have it. Even the most beloved animated movies can have some funny slip-ups, quirky errors, and downright puzzling moments. But honestly, that's what makes them so much fun to rewatch. And for more awesome content, click on one of the videos popping up, and we'll see you in the next video.